Get ready for fun. Get ready for laughs. Get ready to have a great day. Live from the KHOU 11 studios, it's Great Day Houston. And now here's your host, Deborah Duncan.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Great Day Houston. Thank you very much. Well, it is all about relationships today. Whether you're single and ready to mingle, maybe you're hitched and worried about being ditched, or perhaps your relationship is fine, but you want it to be divine. Some of the girl chat today might include topics that are not appropriate for kids, so now would be a good time for them to go play in another room. The Thomas the Train, choo-choo, Thomas the Train video or something like that with the headphones. Okay, well, here to help us sort it all out, please welcome sex and relationship expert Dr. Gabrielle Morrissey and certified sex therapist Emily deAyala. They are raring to go already, aren't they? All right, they are raring to go. Well, no topic is taboo this morning, but we just ask that if you call in, keep your comments and questions clean enough for morning TV. Call us at 713-284-1055, 713-284-1055, or post your relationship questions or even how you handled a relationship issue to our Facebook page, and we'll get to those throughout the show. All right, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Okay, I want to start with first, before we get into any of this other stuff here, is kind of why you came to study what you study when it comes to sex. Because I'm sure when you're at the cocktail party and people start talking, and what do? They go, oh. And then, do you have a card with you? Yes. But it is one of those things that we all do, we all are aware of, but for some reason we all try to pretend that we don't do and we're not aware of.
Mm-hmm. For me, I didn't ever receive sex education. And so when I moved from overseas in Asia, India, Pakistan to the US, I was suddenly exposed to overt sexuality and a chance to study sexuality at college, and I really never looked back from there.
Yeah, because it is at the root of so many different things that we do or how we feel about ourselves. And it's interesting, you mentioned the countries that you moved overseas from. Mm-hmm. We talk about in America how a lot of times from our puritanical roots, how we have issues talking about and dealing with sex. In some of those countries, really do.
Very, very taboo, absolute silence.
In fact, you talk about going from burqas to bikinis.
That was,
from Pakistan to Rio de Janeiro, right? Right. And then Emily, you're a therapist who handles all types of relationship issues, but you have a concentration in sex therapy as well.
Exactly. I think for me it was kind of the opposite. I grew up, my father's an OB-GYN, so sex wasn't really a taboo topic for us growing up. I was very well informed. And then when I was studying psychology, I took a human sexuality course and just realized sex drives a lot of our behavior, and it's so intrinsically a part of our psychology. And so it's just kind of an area that I decided to focus on because it's a huge part of relationships.
Way before you get to the act, there's so many other things that take place.
So many.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. A lot of us have a tendency to judge our relationships by what we see happening in Hollywood or among the elite or among the, all the superstars out there. And there are lessons to be learned. The affair. Affairs, we'll talk about in a minute, don't necessarily have to be the death of a relationship. Mm-hmm. But it could also be that thing that says pay attention. Right. How many of y'all remember, it was like in the 90s, I think, that movie, Hand That Rocks the Cradle? Remember that? Okay. All right. Rebecca De Mornay. They're raising their hand. Okay. You don't hire Rebecca De Mornay to be your nanny. This is problem number one. This is problem number one. And so we have seen this kind of play out over and over again. And now the big one on the front pages of the magazines, Ben Affleck and the nanny.
Mm-hmm. I think it's something to kind of be mindful of it. It's a shame that, if someone is really qualified for a position that you wouldn't hire them just based on their physical appearance. But, proximity is one of the first things that brings two people together. And so if it's someone you're going to be spending a lot of time with, I think it's really important for, the primary couple to talk about what the boundaries are and to be very clear about that.
Because I hired Mrs. Doubtfire when I needed a nanny. I had Mrs. Doubtfire as my nanny. I was like, look at that right there. All right, she was so good with my son. All right, okay. Okay, so Ben Affleck and the nanny, that whole point. And you bring up a great point when you say proximity. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will say, I would never, or it could never happen. you can say that and you can have all the best intentions, but sometimes you're right, that proximity. We see it happen between couples at work. You'll see it on something like, Dancing with the Stars. They'll be like, not that that's an affair, but the thing is, when you're that close and working together toward a goal, sometimes that just happens.
Either you build a relationship like that because they're in your home, but also the relationship doesn't necessarily have to be damaged or in trouble for an affair to occur. People have oops moments, stupid oops moments. There's things like drugs and alcohol that can play a part that lead to immediate regret and wanting to rewind. So it's not necessarily, we can pass judgment on these relationships and marriages that something must have been cracked, but not necessarily. And when you're living with someone and you trust them because you are a celebrity or a high-profile person and you have to keep secrets, it just creates an even stronger bond that can lead to that kind of temptation.
Yeah, and it's so hard because when you have people, especially, your friends will be around you, girl, you need to leave him, or you need to leave that woman, whatever. We saw with Arnold Schwarzenegger and his housekeeper, and then, oh, there's a child. The child's like, what, 13, 14, right? That type of thing. Power is that ultimate aphrodisiac that we talk about, politicians. With Bill Clinton, people were like, why doesn't she leave? For Hillary Clinton, she made up her mind what she wanted to do, and
Right. And you have to respect people's decisions. I mean, because I think you're right. Sometimes people make mistakes. And are you going to completely throw away a relationship because of a mistake? Hopefully you learn from it. And obviously, if it becomes a pattern, that's another story, as we've seen in some of these other politicians. But, a lot of times it's something that can actually bring a couple closer together once they roll up their sleeves, do the work, and get through it. But that's kind of counterintuitive for people at first. But it can happen.
And looking at these kinds of relationships where you have like this noted celebrity and the nanny, or you have the president of the United States of America and the intern. It's kind of like that thing of the professor and the student type of deal, where we kind of see this person as being, we talk about sex and attraction, we see this person as being more than, bigger than life, bigger than your life at that moment.
Exactly.
It's that power dynamic, and males having the status of being an alpha and being a provider and being the head of the pack is very alluring, even in terms of bioevolution for females. And then for males, if there's even a bit of attention or eye candy, it's sometimes hard for a powerful male to turn away from that.
Yeah. And then sometimes the arrogance part. I mean, with Donald, the guys in the audience, the women are like, is that true, guys? Can you just say no? You can just say no, can't you?
They're struggling. They're struggling.
Then you have that famous picture of, Donald Trump on the ski mountains with the woman he's having an affair with and his wife and his family and the whole bit. And I was going back and reading over what Marla Maples was saying about that whole time. And she said, we were trying to keep it quiet, but, then the press found out about it and the whole bit. But, they ended up getting married, but they ended up breaking apart as well. All right. So I just want to wrap up with not always the death of a relationship. Sometimes it can make it stronger, and it has you ask questions. When do we know it's something that is not going to work, and when it's something that possibly could? Is it when somebody's emotionally invested, then you're in trouble, versus somebody who says, I just was either acting out or I needed something to be fulfilled at that time?
I don't even think it's the trigger necessarily, because every affair is different. I think it's the way the two partners conduct themselves and have their intentions in the aftermath. If they're both equally committed to working on a new relationship going forward, because it's not going to be the same as it was, then it stands half a chance. But if it's only one person or grudges remain...
Yeah, and what message are you sending? Because sometimes I see where, in friends of mine who've done this, they really were trying to tell their partner, I don't want to be with you anymore. It is over. But they couldn't say it. And so it's almost like they did the affair to say, now you can leave me, right? Now it's easier to break up, as opposed to be able to, because it's very hurtful to sit down and just say, I don't love you anymore.
And I think defensiveness is a bad sign. I've worked with people who, an affair comes out and they've, been unwilling to break the connection with the person with whom they had the affair. That's not usually a good sign. Or they're not willing to maybe take a look and say, okay, I need to restructure some of my boundaries. That's not a good sign. So the prognosis then goes, it becomes a little bit poorer if there's a lot of defensiveness involved.
And then if you say you forgive and you try to move on, You gotta have to forgive.
Yes.
Everybody.
No bringing it up.
Yeah, like you were 5 minutes late. And by the way, just so you know, a lot of people think that it's always the man who is cheating. With most studies, it's about 50-50.
Yeah.
50-50. All right. Oh, look at that. Oh. You know somebody, don't you? Yeah. Like, all right, we're going to take a break and get to some of our audience questions, and we're also going to get to your questions. Remember, you can just call us. We'll put our phone number up on the screens for you to be able to do that, and we'll answer your questions in anonymity through that phone call.